Ah, summer. It's time to relax and read books. We present a series of authors and their books from the upcoming Nichi Bei News Summer Book Review and the Nichi Bei Book Fest. First up, we introduce to you Frank Abe, co-editor with Floyd Chung of the book The Literature of Japanese American Incarceration.
I'm Frank Abe, and I'm a writer in Seattle. I'm also co-editor with Floyd Chung of a new anthology from Penguin Classics called Literature of Japanese American Incarceration. We we define literature in this volume as not just fine writing, fine quality poetry and short stories, but we Floyd said that literature could be any piece of writing from done by those in camps. As a result, we include nonfiction drawn from essays, memoirs, and letters, uh, even songs. We have two songs, lyrics from two songs in here, and so, this opens up the door to a range of material that I've collected over the years as having some special quality. And in fact, a lot of the selections uh, are drawn from the bookshelf behind me. So this book is for a modern audience. It's a trade paperback. In that regard, it's a book for everyone. It's for the general reader who will get a roadmap to the arc of the camp experience, and think for things that confuse them or uh, they can look in here and see how things all fit together from start to finish. It's for the classroom, presented in bite-sized pieces, so that educators can supplement with their own favorite books and films and localized stories. And of course, it's for a Japanese American audience who will find it who've told me that they find it to be a page turner. That once they open it up, they can't stop reading because of the narrative drive from one selection to the next, and how things all seem to fit together, maybe for the first time.
Next up, we present Greg Robinson, co-author with Jonathan von Harmelen on their book, The Unknown Great.
Hello, I'm Greg Robinson. I'm a contributing editor at the Nichi Bei News. My column is called The Great Unknown and the Unknown Great. But in this case, I'm an author with Jonathan van Harmelen of the book The Unknown Great, about marginal Japanese American stories and Japanese American stories at the margins of history. This book is a collection of portraits of interesting but unknown people in Japanese American history. Not necessarily themselves Japanese Americans, though most of them are. And what it really is a counter history of Japanese Americans in one volume. That is, the stories, apart from being interesting and fun to read in themselves, break with myths about Japanese Americans, that Japanese Americans all lived on the West Coast. They were all farmers and fishermen. They were not politically active, that their stories ended with the camps. In our case, Jonathan and I have found stories of Japanese Americans who lived in the East Coast and in Europe and who traveled the world, about Japanese American involvement with African Americans. For example, portraits of African Americans in Japanese American literature. It's the title, is the subject of one of the stories that I wrote with Brian Nia. There's stuff on lesbian and gay Japanese Americans, which challenge the idea that Japanese Americans were all in nuclear families and there were no gay Japanese Americans. In fact, lesbians and gays have always been part of Japanese communities. Then there's the encounters between Japanese Americans and religious groups, the Mennonites, the Latter-day Saints, the Catholics. For example, there's a fascinating story that I wrote together with Mathieu Langlois on the writer Hisai Yamamoto and the writing that she did for Dorothy Day's Catholic Worker Movement in the Catholic Worker newspaper. There's also a section on mixed race Japanese Americans. There's a section on Japanese Americans and classical music and the theater. There are all sorts of information that will challenge and excite people. And so I hope you'll read it.
Next, we present Sam Nakahira, author of the graphic novel Ruth Asawa, An Artist Takes Shape.
Oh, hi, I'm Sam Nakahira. I'm a comic artist and illustrator from Southern California. So I make a lot of comics around Japanese American history, also like mythology and the natural world. I also contribute comics to the Nichi Bei News for their monthly issues. And I also wanted to introduce my graphic novel, Ruth Asawa, Artist Take Shape, which was published by the Getty and Abrams Books in March 2024. So my graphic novel, Ruth Asawa, Artist Take Shape, is a comic about Ruth Asawa, who is a Japanese-American artist. She grew up in Norwalk, California, but then eventually moved to San Francisco, where she spent most of her life. But she's very well known for her wire sculptures. So the book kind of captures like her early life from when she was 16 years old to around 25 years old. And I think it covers kind of like a relatively lesser known period of her life where at 16 years old she was incarcerated in the Japanese American incarceration camps during World War II. I think also some people don't know, but she grew up in a farming family in Norwalk, and her parents were immigrants. She's very related to Japanese American history in California, where a lot of recent immigrants during like the late 1800s, early 1900s worked on farms or worked with their hands in like gardening. But yeah, I hope one of the takeaways from the book, I think, is just hoping that people learn more about her story and get interested in her as an artist. I think because she's just a really cool person, I think. Also a cool artist and someone I really admire. I think one of my favorite sayings from her, or favorite quotes, is line could go anywhere. And when she was saying that quote, she was actually using it to describe like wire sculptures. But for me, I also think it kind of reflects like a lot of her life choices where she was really like not afraid to do things that other people maybe thought were less appealing, like career choices and things like that. But she was like very brave, and feel like she really knew what she wanted in life sometimes, even if it was different from what others thought. Sorry, I just wanted to thank the Ruth Asawa family and also Ruth Asawa Lanier Inc. Especially Vivian Tong, the historian, for finding so many like documents and photos for me. Also, thank you especially to Addie Lanier for sharing her stories about her mother, and also Henry Weaverka for also like providing a lot of editorial feedback and just support for the project in general. I really appreciate it. I feel like the book could not have really come together without all of them. Yeah, and thank you also to the Getty, my editors and publishers.
Next, we introduce Wendy Yamashita, author of Carceral Entanglements.
My name is Wendy Yamashita. I am an assistant professor at Sac State teaching in ethnic studies, and I am the author of Carceral Entanglements, Gendered Public Memories of Japanese American World War II Incarceration. And my book is important or significant to the Japanese American community because I'm really thinking about the ways in which we, in this moment, are remembering World War II. What are our practices of that? So I look at different sites of memory. I'm looking at museums, I'm looking at digital archives, I'm looking at pilgrimages, and I'm looking at student plays. And so what I'm really trying to think about is thinking through how Japanese Americans remember the past in relationship to other communities of color, especially thinking about relational organizing. And I'm really interested in the specific location of Japanese Americans in a racialized hierarchy. Thank you so much for your interest in my book. Please come out to the Nichi Bei Book Fair, and it will be great to see you all.
Next, we present Art Hansen on his book Nikkei Harvest, reviewing the Japanese American historical experience and its legacy. Interviewed by author Naomi Hirahara, originally aired on the Nichi Bei Day of Giving.
So, Art, I know that Nikkei Harvest also includes reviews by Mr. Maeda, but can you give us kind of an overview of the content of the book as well as how these reviews were organized?
I've divided it into 9 categories. One of them focuses on people, particularly, the individuals. The next group of reviews deal with the Japanese American family. The next group of reviews deals with the Japanese American community, the history of the community and the history of the family, etc. The next section of the book deals with Japanese American arts of all sorts. The next section deals with the World War II Japanese American incarceration camps. The next section deals with the World War II Japanese American resistance activity. The next section deals with the Asian American movement. The next section deals with the Japanese American redress movement. And the final chapter deals with the international Nikkei community. So you get a very full picture of the entire Japanese American experience through these different sections. And I think each of the essays are quite important in and of themselves. They're not just adjuncts to the reviews. They really have a standalone value.
We invite you to pick up a copy of the Nichi Bei News Special Summer Book Review Edition and look in depth into these books, and also check out the Nichi Bei Book Fest on July 27th, 2024 at SF Japantown's Koho Co-Creative Hub located on Post Street next to the Hotel Kabuki on the second floor of the Japan Center East Mall. This is Greg Valoria for the Nichi Bei Cafe.